Hi friends, welcome to this latest episode of India and the World. And today we have with us a special guest. Uh, we have with us Dr. Manan Dwivedi. Dr. Manan Dwivedi, welcome to this show. And Dr. Dwivedi is with Indian Institute of Public Administration, and he is an assistant professor there. And as a faculty, he specializes in international relations and international organizations. So, welcome, Dr. Dwivedi. Today, we are going to talk about US elections. Dr. Dwivedi has written several books on US, and he is a subject matter expert. So, there's a lot of noise which we have been witnessing around the elections. So, how are and the interesting thing is that two very old kind of much older politicians, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, are pitted against each other. So Biden is so far it seems, though he's getting a challenge from within his own party also. So if Biden is repeated, he's representing the Democrats and Trump is representing Republicans. So Dr. Dwivedi, your first thoughts on, the current state of affairs in United States as far as US elections are concerned.
Definitely, it's a very pertinent question, Arunji. I would just like to profess here or pontificate here that the most powerful job in the world, or the job for the most powerful to become the most powerful personage in the entire ecosystem of global polity, that is what is something which is in the offing as far as the general activities and the paraphernalia about US elections are concerned. But as we have already pointed out, Joe Biden suffers from a couple of personal tragedies which keep on cropping their dirty heads up as far as his speeches and general activities as the American president is concerned, and he's too old too. One cannot say that President Trump too is the ideal candidate, but he too is 78 or 79. So that can serve as a kind of a demarche to both the candidates. So this is something which has been very much bandied about and talked about in the global media and the American media. But if we look at the issues, then I think immigration and abortion, these are the major dividing issues which are roiling the American polity in the context of the US presidential elections. There was this particular, I just end here, there was this particular a case law in the US Supreme Court in 1973, that was the Roe versus Wade, wherein abortion was the issue. So the Roe versus Wade legitimized abortion, and when Trump came in as the president of the United States of America in 2016, he actually went a long way ahead and said that abortion cannot take place in America. There are several other factors attached to it. For example, if in Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin, if the people cannot go and abort their children or fetus, uh, if they cannot do it in Wisconsin, they will travel on to North Carolina, or they will travel to South Carolina, where the laws are separate from the ban which exists in Wisconsin. So it was a very blatant, blunt example. So the idea is that the idea of liberty, freedom, equality, egalitarianism, and what all we say about America in the true context of liberty, that has been convoluted. That has become very convoluted, and the idea of women empowerment and feminism too sometimes plays a role. This is one part of it. Immigration is another issue which divides the people a lot as far as America is concerned. But what is surprising is that, and this can serve as a kind of a problem for President Joe Biden, the incumbent. What happens is that uh, Joe Biden too has followed immigration policies which are against his charter of manifesto, which are against his manifesto, and which happen to be very similar to what President Joe Biden has done, what President Donald Trump had done when he was in the White House. President Trump talked about a few, what do you call, 7 countries. And he said that these citizens of these 7 countries, mainly Muslim countries, cannot enter United States of America because they might be categorized as unarmed combatants or people who can vitiate the peace, stability, and the quietude of United States of America. So, Texas happens to come into the fray here, where Joe Biden has completely straight-jacketed the fencing and the migration from Mexico through Texas that has been completely banned, which is similar to what Trump had done. So I personally feel on closer analysis that abortion is an issue, and because of the similarity in the standpoint on the issue of illegal migration or something what the American law calls as aliens, that might be a bit of a problem for Joe Biden. We can carry on from here, Arunji.
Uh, so, if Republicans, we have seen, the comfort level of government of India, especially during the Modi regime, has been, it seems, relatively more with the Trump administration, more with the Republicans rather than the Democrats. The Democrats seems to be going pretty, left of the center in US. So, if there is a change, if Republicans come back to power in United States. So, if there is a Republican president, do you see any significant shift in India-US relations?
Definitely, it's a very pertinent and $100 and $1 million question. Arunji, I would like to congratulate you on this count. I personally feel that Trump follows a very isolationist and a withdrawal kind of a foreign policy, wherein if we want to understand the impact of the US elections or Trump's presidency on the Indo-US relation, India-US relationship and the strategic partnership, which is a level up to which it was enhanced in 2015 and will go on for as long as the Americans, New Delhi and Washington want it. What I personally feel is that there might not be a very palpable change, but definitely there happens to be a personal chemistry and a kind of consonance between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Trump. He came all the way down to Motera, and we really had a very grand and a gala-like function where thousands of people watched as both the heads of states hugged each other. People contend in the media in some places that it was all rhetoric and some sort of a high grand standing or verbiage. But when symmetry takes place, what people need to understand is that this personal chemistry in the context of summit diplomacy or symmetry is the basic element which ignites further friendship and cooperation between the countries, and India and US are a great example of it. But I would come back to your very nice and germane question, Arunji, where I would just like to contend that Republicans are known to withdraw. That is, President Trump in his last tenure, he completely went away from the Paris Climate Accord, from the International Criminal Court also, and he asked the NATO allies and the European Union allies to fund their own security and and wanted them not to rely upon the American umbrella, security and financial umbrella. So, that way some of the people in India are not very sure about what President Trump would do and how would his tenure act for India, serve for India, whether it will bring in closer relationships or whether it would mean a withdrawal by the Americans, that remains to be seen. But still, on a concluding note for your question, I would just say that the future is extremely bright for India-America relationship. And because in the pre-2014 May political denomination, which was there in India, and much earlier than that, immediately after the independence, the Indian and American relations, because of the intransigence of India, the Nehruvian era, relationship could not be built on a very sound note or on a firm ground. Because of that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had to try very hard. Sushma ji, late Sushma Swaraj ma'am, they all tried very hard, and we were able to cobble together a good working and a kind of a near to allyhood kind of a relationship with America. But one of the major problems with the India-US relationship happens to be the antecedents or the prehistory. The history is not very rosy, and beyond 2014, India went in, Narendra Modi ji went in, the MEA went in, and we mended the fences with America. So, coming down to our question and concluding it as far as this particular snippet on India-US relations is concerned, I would say that there is not much of a difference between the Republican and the Democratic parties' overtures or foreign policy maneuvering towards India. But still, because the Republicans are a center to right, they too believe in capitalism. They believe in an aggressive foreign policy, which is criticized as warmongering by some of the countries and media in the world. There happens to be an innate closeness. there happens uh, there happens to be an innate closeness and a kind of a proximity between the positions which are taken by New Delhi and Washington. This is how I would put it across.
So, recently, elections got finished in United Kingdom in Britain, and 29 Indian origin members of parliament have got elected there in the parliament. Now, if we come to United States, so there is a large Indian origin population there also, and they have become pretty active, in both Democrats and Republican parties. So, where do you see, in which of these parties the Indian origin voters, as well as you see a greater participation from the Indian origin people who are living in US, who have become US citizens, who have got a right to vote there. So, what is their inclination? They are more inclined towards Democrats, or they are more inclined towards Republicans? And also, which of these parties is kind of giving more opportunities to Indian origin people there, in terms of political participation, in terms of contesting elections, in terms of getting prominent political posts. So if we compare between Democrats and Republicans, so which are the parties generally Indian origin people like more?
Once again, I would like to talk about it in some detail. Traditionally, if you look at the Indian diaspora or the people who are settled, people of Indian origin who are settled in United States of America, then what we can see is that they have a kind of a bonhomie and a greater deal of recognition and identification with the Democrats. Since the beginning, people have been wary of the Republicans. The Indians, generally speaking, have been wary of the Republicans. And, because of people like John F. Kennedy in the 1960s and other American presidents who were Democrats, a lot of friendship and good blood. It flew and between India between the Indians and the Americans. This is one part of it. But since 2014, I would like to comment on it that because of the summit diplomacy, which took place between New Delhi and Washington, and because of the efforts put in by the New Delhi denomination and equal reciprocity, which was received through President Donald Trump, it so occurred that the Indian diaspora too is gradually, not en masse, but gradually thinking about changing its narrative towards Democrats, and maybe the Republicans are also making some sort of a toehold as far as supporting Republicans and Donald Trump in the American elections are concerned, because Democrats have been centrist and Indians go there as part of a rags to riches story. If we look at the 90s pattern of the 1960s immigration, so they are more enamored of the, that stylistic, fashionable, and that classicist demeanor of Democrats who somehow tend to talk like the Labour Party and the Starmer variety who has come to the fold in United Kingdom. So I think still the Indians are much more enamored of the Democrats as compared to what we expect them to naturally go to the line of Donald Trump and the Republicans. That is what I would say here.
So one last question I wanted to ask you. Do you see the US politics, getting more and more fragmented. We have seen, especially in context of, the Israel-Hamas conflict, the way, people have taken different pole positions there. We also see, a trend about increasing wokeism, especially in the educational institutions, higher educational institutions in United States. So do you see, and the way Trump has been, targeted, and earlier, when the US elections happened, so the credibility of elections also, was at stake. And, there was this episode of Trump supporters, kind of invading the White House. So, do you see the quality, because US has always projected itself as a kind of a role model as far as democracy is concerned. But do you see that it has come down from that pedestal and it is just like any other, what you call, the third world country politics, where politicians are at, kind of trying to by hook or by crook, they are trying to score a win. And the politics also getting fragmented, and also and because of this, there is a disillusionment in the common people of United States as far as, going out or voting is concerned, or, participating in political activities. So, how do you, see all these things? So, if you can elaborate on this.
Definitely, it's a golden opportunity to talk about something which you have explained very nicely, Arunji. Something which we American studies scholars and students have been taught in our American studies textbooks and by our illustrious professors. Something called as manifest destiny. Now, manifest destiny is something wherein the Americans theologically and ideologically they consider themselves to be a castle, a shimmering golden castle atop Mount Sinai. Something what Israel also talks about, and something what we do not talk about. But we have this kind of an fascination for the manifest destiny and for the idea of the city or the castle atop Mount Sinai. So the Americans have always been kind of what you call idealistic in their foreign policy approach. They say that they are the running and the true live instances of democracy, liberty, freedom, equality, and all that one tends to associate with liberalism. And what we have propounded, we also do a bit of lobbying for India-US relations. Then I think the construct of the Nehruvian era needs to end completely, wherein India, we have propounded a kind of a civilizational connect between India and United States of America, with the third country entering into the fray as a triumvirate, that is Israel, wherein these countries are not warmongers, but they are fighting, or let's say they are militating against global and jihadi terrorism and Islamic fundamentalism. And it is not about religion. A religion is a very narrow kind of a definition or a prism through which we see the American and the Indian role. But one has to, if we are practically speaking also, and pragmatically speaking also, when you are a small fish, or even if you are a big fish, then you cannot make your crocodile angry. In the same manner, it's not that we become a lap dog or a pet animal of the American polity in the American system. That can never happen. But still, a hanky-dory relationship between Washington and New Delhi has always been on the anvil. And I don't, but definitely I agree to the Indian concern that their organization UNICEF came out and they have been more than a couple of times they have blamed India, they have castigated New Delhi that we have not allowed religions to function properly and things to happen very correctly, and we have been taunted and sarcastically commented upon by Americans this particular document by UNICEF about tolerance and religion, which are very misunderstood and much bandied about terms in America because they do not actually understand that what is tolerance. India is a glowing example of the dictum of unity in diversity. We have had so many Muslim people as our important leaders. Uh, Abul Kalam was also one of them. Fakhruddin Ahmad was one of them. So, during the times of emergency, and as we are waiting through the month of June, when emergency was imposed on 26th of June in the 1970s by Indira Gandhi. So that is an aside only. But I would come back to the point and say that America, being the most powerful nation state on the earth, and America being one of the biggest economies of the world, though it is in decline, there is no harm in India kowtowing along with the Americans as an ally. I once again, Arunji, very humbly reiterate the word and reassert myself. We have been welcomed by Americans as an ally now. Gone are the days of 80s and 90s when Robin Raphael, the Assistant Secretary for South Asian Affairs, would visit India and would show in the UN photographs of so-called imagined and fake excesses by Indian Army in Jammu and Kashmir. So we have to go beyond the past because there was a suspicion. There was a kind of a reticence about the American role in issues like on themes like religion, tolerance, and Jammu and Kashmir and terrorism in India. That is a past now. We have to look into a brighter prospect. And I would also like to end here on this note that in 2008, the manner in which the 123 nuclear agreement was reached by India and United States of America, where wherein the Americans amended their Atomic Energy Act of 1953 and gave special freedom to India to keep aside the civilian nuclear reactors and the defense nuclear reactors, wherein most half of these reactors were beyond the purview of the American inspectors and also beyond the purview of the International Atomic Energy Agency, that is IAEA. So I think everything is not so negative, everything is not so pessimistic about supporting the Americans. But definitely, I agree that Americans should be more vocal about India's concerns and they should be more forthright in supporting us whenever we get into a tangle with either China or with Pakistan. That is, Arunji, that is how I would look at it.
Thank you, Mananji, for sharing your thoughts with us and taking out time from your busy schedule. And we'll end the conversation here. We'll soon have Mananji in another episode, as we'll keep on tracking the United States and other major developments in the international arena. So, if you like this video, please share it and subscribe to the channel. And you can also press the bell icon and you'll get the notifications of new videos. So we'll end the India and the World segment. Yeah, thank you very much once again,
Thank you.
Mananji. And we'll be back soon with another episode. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you for your time and concern.